What made the most prominent figure in the struggle for Congo's independence feared by Western powers? A leader who was transformed into one of the biggest icons in the Pan-African movement and inspired future generations in the liberation of Africa. On this episode of Humble History, we're going to cover the triumphs and struggles of Patrice Lumumba. Let's get into it right now. The year is 1925 and we are in the Central African country of Congo, a Belgian colony at the time. Belgium used military force to subdue Congo as a colony, but they fabricated many different ethnic groups to cause tensions. They created new ethnic groups where there had not been before and split up existing ethnic groups. The plan was to divide and conquer. Congo was a fruitful colony for Belgium because of its copper mines. The labor of the mining was done by the Congolese, but almost all profit went to the Belgian community. The same level of segregation even extended to schools. The highest quality of education were easily accessible to the white Europeans and highly limited to the black Africans. European education also emphasized the difference from local beliefs, traditions, and superstitions. Lumumba writes, "The little African boy leaves the paternal roof minus any particle of European civilization and goes to school where he is taught to read, to write, and do arithmetic. By way of education, his masters teach him ideas which, although sometimes memorized, take no hold on him because these ideas have no application in practical life." The black pupil finds himself caught between two conflicting forces, the standards of the school and those of the family. Lumumba was born into this society. Even as a child growing up in his rural community, he was seen as charismatic, smart, and someone who followed his own path. Lumumba went to the city of Stanleyville at the age of 20. There he worked at a post office and attended college classes at night. He becomes part of an elite class of Congolese called the Évolués. The Évolués were a Congolese class with higher education and often working at junior level positions in offices usually reserved for the Belgian Congolese. Though not as rich as their Belgian counterparts, the Évolués are richer than the average Congolese and in a way treated better by the Belgians and allowed to enter into the territories that were exclusive to the whites. However, becoming an évolué is not a simple task and involves a process of accreditation which many found to be degrading. After 5 years in Stanleyville, Lumumba began writing columns for the Belgian Congolese newspaper. The articles that he wrote are believed to be the first elements that shed light of what he was thinking at the time. At this point, Lumumba argued that all people are equal, but his writing didn't suggest that he wanted to shake the status quo. After all, as an évolué, he was benefiting from it. In 1956, Lumumba was arrested for not paying his debts. It was during his time in prison that we see Lumumba's attitude towards racial segregation begin to change. He wrote his only book while in prison. Originally, this book was not published because it was considered too radical by the Europeans. However, it's published posthumously as Congo, My Country. After release from jail, Lumumba moved to Leopoldville and became more involved in politics. He became a founding member of the MNC, Congolese National Movement, a political party that pushed for Congolese independence. Lumumba even attended the 6th Pan-African Congress in Ghana as a representative of the MNC. Many attendants noted that he gave a stirring speech. He became dedicated to politics and independence. More and more African countries were becoming independent, and it seemed that Congo would be no exception. However, the MNC was run mainly by the Évolués, and many saw Lumumba as too radical. Eventually, the party splits into two groups, which one party led by Joseph Kasavubu and another led by Lumumba called the MNCL. In the span of months, the MNCL became the most popular party in Congo, with the majority of its members being young people. The question for independence grows louder and louder, and what seemed to be impossible only a few months before became the inevitable. And on June 30, 1960, Congo became independent. Lumumba makes a coalition with the other MNC group. Kasavubu becomes president and Lumumba becomes prime minister. On the Independence Day, Lumumba announced that Brussels agreed to aid the new independent Congo. Lumumba said, "Together, my brothers, my sisters, we are going to begin a new struggle, a sublime struggle, which will lead our country to peace, prosperity, and greatness." In this domain, Belgium, at last accepting the flow of history, has not tried to oppose our independence and is ready to give us their aid and their friendship. A treaty has just been signed between our two countries, equal and independent. Our side, while we stay vigilant, we shall respect our obligations given freely. However, Belgium's future action would show that it was not giving over its colony so easily. Congo's newfound independence is met almost immediately with crisis. On the 11th of January, the state of Katanga, led by Moise Tshombe of the political party Konakat, declares itself independent. Lumumba and the rest of the Congolese government are against Katanga's secession. They suspect foul play by the side of the Belgians. Lumumba reached out to the UN for assistance in removing the Belgian troops. The UN sent military aid and removed the insurgents. However, they refused to enter Katanga. Lumumba then asked for military aid from America. He traveled to the US to meet with Eisenhower, but this was to no avail. The Americans believed that Lumumba had already allied himself with the Soviets. This was not the case. Lumumba showed favoritism to neither the Soviets nor the West. In fact, many members of Lumumba's party, including Kasavubu, were against Soviet intervention. Lumumba found himself between a rock and a hard place. Eventually, he turned to the Soviets for help, which caused an immediate split with Kasavubu. However, Lumumba pushed on. Armed with Soviet weaponry, Lumumba sent the Congolese army into Katanga. The US had seen Lumumba as a threat, and this confirmed all their suspicions. The CIA had been secretly paying the Congolese army General Joseph Mobutu. In the midst of Kasavubu and Lumumba fighting, the US tapped Mobutu to act. On September 14, 1961, Mobutu took control in a bloodless coup. After the coup, Lumumba had lost all power. He attempted to flee to Stanleyville but was arrested and taken back to the capital. He was placed in military barracks and tortured for days. Knowing that death was inevitable, Lumumba wrote a final letter addressed to his wife. "They have corrupted certain of our fellow countrymen. They have contributed to distorting the truth and to besmirching our independence. But my faith will stay unbreakable. I know and I feel to the depth of my being that sooner or later my people will get rid of all the interior and exterior enemies, that they will rise up like a single person to say no to a degrading and shameful colonialism and to reassure their dignity under a pure sun. We are not alone. Africa, Asia, and a free liberated people from every corner of the world will always be found at the side of the Congolese. To my children whom I leave and whom perhaps I will see no more, I wish that they be told that the future of Congo is beautiful and that it expects from them as it expects from each Congolese to accomplish the sacred task of reconstruction of our independence and our sovereignty. Do not weep for me, my dear companion. I know that my country, which suffers so much, will know how to defend its independence and its liberty. Long live the Congo, long live Africa." After days of torture, Lumumba was killed by a Belgian firing squad, sanctioned by Tshombe. Lumumba's body was cut up, covered in acid, and burned by the Belgian officials, almost as if to forget him completely. However, this was not the case. Lumumba stayed a symbol for an independent Congo and an independent Africa. Lumumba was only 36 years old when he died. His name, however, was sang halfway across the world. The day after the announcement of Lumumba's murder, the Indonesian poet Sabar Santoso Anantaguna wrote, "The news came early in the morning. Lumumba's dead. Lumumba is dead. The earth shook. The revolution marches on. Long live Lumumba." To this day, he is seen as a hero to the Congolese people. That's it for this episode of Humble History. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. If you want to keep up with future episodes, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. I'm your host, Efrata Orgo. This episode was written by Bisrat Shatu and Adam Sahalu. The production was done by Michael Kabeda. And we'll see you on the next episode of Humble History.